There she is.
Hello.
Amazing. Sorry, me and technology sometimes causing problems. Jeanine, awesome. Let's get straight into it. We've obviously been chatting for a little while, trying to figure out some different bits and pieces, and here we are. So it's really, really cool. Thank you for jumping on with me tonight. Obviously UK time morning, but your time evening. So appreciate that.
No.
Cool. Right, let's get into it. So just give people some insight, Jeanine, who perhaps don't know you as well. A little bit of background about yourself, kind of where your shearing journey, or how you got to becoming a shearer. Your background prior to shearing, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose for anyone that doesn't know me, I grew up on a fine wool property just outside of Hill End, near Bathurst, New South Wales, in Australia. I got into shearing because Dad's a shearer, and he always encouraged all us kids just to get in and have a go when anything needs doing. So even as kids, would be dragging sheep for crutching or helping with whatever, and Dad just said, "Oh, get on and have a go," and yeah, I did.
Awesome. And I suppose obviously with your dad being such a big influence, then did you ever consider anything different to shearing as for a career, or was it always going to be shearing?
I did want to be an art teacher for a while. So I started shearing when I was about 14, just having a go, and then I went to university for about a year in Macquarie in Sydney. I was going to do visual arts, and I'd done a gap year before that working in the sheds, so I just came back to that afterwards. Like, I really, really enjoyed like the learning side of the university, but when it came down to it, you could make so much more money in the sheds, and yeah, I got into a really good flow when I got back into the sheds, and you learn so much anyway in the sheds. It sort of filled that gap in my interest anyway.
Love it. So art teacher to to shearer. I think an interesting combo. One I reckon you could do two together, eh?
Yeah. Sometimes
that's cool.
So people see me shear creative.
I beg your pardon?
I said, sometimes people watching me shear, it probably looks a bit creative.
Hey, listen, why not? Why do it the same as everyone else, eh? So that's absolutely brilliant. So where, I suppose, jumping on a few steps, obviously you've done a fair bit. How much shearing how many years of shearing had you done prior to the record? What was the proper full seasons?
Yeah, so starting when I was 14, that was only in school holidays and at the property.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a bit of the gap year between university and high school, and then since then it's been about 11 years full-time shearing now. I sort of based down on the Monero, the Snowy Mountains, for maybe 6 or 7 years, and then since then I've been up here around Byron along near Yass.
Yeah. And so would you, obviously for people, anyone who ends up watching this video that doesn't know loads about shearing, would you shear, how many days a week would you be shearing for this period of time that you consider yourself, as you say, 11 years you think you've been doing it? Yeah. So over that period of time, how many days a week would you on average shear, do you think?
We mostly just do 5 days. There's never had any issue working through the weekend if we needed to, but the work that's been available to me mostly, you've never had to chase extra work through the weekend. Mm-hmm. So 5 days a week, but that spans through the whole year. So been really lucky that it hasn't been as seasonal as some areas can be. You can fill in your entire year traveling reasonably close to home, not having to chase work. So which is what you want. You don't really, unless that's your interest, you don't really need to be chasing work if that's something you don't want to have to do. So
cool. So let's sort of think a little bit about Jeanine's sort of however many years into her shearing career. What was it? Why did the record appeal to you?
I suppose a few years ago now, I've had different influences in my life suggest that maybe I should be doing a record, and I sort of at the time sort of laughed it off and didn't take it seriously. It was never something that I thought, because I've always been just a shed shearer, and that's something that I really enjoy, just turning up day in, day out, working in the sheds with a team. I've never really chased anything in the spotlight before. And then it sort of came to a point in my life where all of a sudden I had a lot of extra time. I wasn't traveling as much on the weekends to get to and from work. So it sort of opened me up. But I sort of had so much extra time and I wanted to really work towards a goal. And it sort of came back to that. It sort of got the idea in my head that I guess the opportunity was there, and it was something that really appealed to me because it was a bit in line with my interest with being more of a shed shearer rather than a show shearer. Like, just for me personally, the shows are really, really good, but the idea of following them around the state and then being up in front of a crowd constantly was a bit daunting. So I liked the idea of just quietly working away towards a goal and seeing what I could achieve. Like, and I had the support behind me. So
then you thought you'd stand up in front of the world and do a world record.
I suppose it's a bit ironic, but yeah, this is something that really sort of changed for me. Is like, I can get a bit shy sometimes, a bit painfully shy, and that was something that was really took some mental, preparation, and that I'm going to have to be up in front of everyone and put myself out there. That's something that I've never really been able to embrace, but with the support that I've gotten, especially from my team and from Mark, like, it was really, really good that I had that behind me. It was nothing but positivity, so it did make it a lot easier to get up in front of everyone and be like, oh, here I am.
yeah. I think I heard a real good analogy once about, like, if your car breaks down. So let's say you're driving along and somebody's car breaks down, you see them pushing it, you're much more likely to help them push it if they're pushing it than they are if they're just sat there waiting. So I think if your team around you see you kind of putting in a lot of effort, going outside your comfort zone, they're more likely to get behind you than, say, if somebody's kind of just sat there waiting for someone else to help them. So I think you earn that. Cool. So obviously you're well familiar by this stage with shearing and what you need to be doing, and you're getting lots of help from that. So obviously then we spoke, didn't we? And you asked me if I could help you with your kind of fitness and your conditioning. So tell me a little bit about what I suppose. Let's start with, what did you learn during your kind of training and so far with me that you didn't necessarily expect to learn about? Or was there anything about your process that you went through that surprised you?
Like, I suppose when I approached you, like, I never did sports school. Like, I'm pretty much a clean slate. I've always been fairly athletic. So the only sort of ideas I had about training was probably with Mark, like, because he's been a very big mentor of mine, and he's sort of the first person I met to show me that how professional shearing can be, like, with your hydration and your sleep and nutrition. So I've always had that as a sort of base with how I sort of conducted myself at work. But then when I came on training with you, I suppose that it really just evolved on that. Like, it gave you sort of a process to, and like, method and organization to work on that and find out actually what you can achieve with your body, rather than, oh, it'll be right, it will just heal, or like, especially with the mobility, I really enjoyed with you, because there's a lot of times in life you don't really realize, especially with shearing, doing the same movements over and over and over again, you don't realize how either weak other parts of your body's got, or that bit of stiff joint or the stiff whatever it be. You just sort of start to deal with it. You don't realize how much you actually lose not working on the areas when you're not shearing.
You kind of get, like, you get used, people get used to feeling sick and tired, in a different way, but or for you, like you say, and you're quite right, if you're doing the same movements all the time, you get very, very good at that. But the trouble is, as soon as you step outside of that, you're then into a problem where potentially you get a little nudge one way or the other from a bigger sheep, and all the little muscles that should be doing the work to stop you from doing that don't, and you end up hurting yourself. So and it's never a perfect journey. There's never it's always you have to kind of navigate your way through these things. So cool. Okay, so any sort of thoughts on, I appreciate, like you said, about kind of learning things along the way, how to sort of navigate your way around things, how to, approach your recovery, etc. Training wise, obviously we had to take into account sometimes when you were staying away, didn't we, on different places, and it wasn't always easy to have access to a fully equipped gym, so we had to work around that. How did you find that?
Yeah, it was good. Like, so probably the first sort of daunting thing is because it's so much out of our routine, is it stopped us at all.
Say that again, Jeanine.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I suppose to start with, it was getting into the routine of the training.
Yes. Yeah.
That was probably the most daunting thing, in that it's not something that you sort of, if you're not training for something day in, day out, it does take a little bit of time and organisation to get yourself into those really good habits.
Yeah.
To make it pay off. Like, it's all just the little things of starting the momentum of getting into, you warm up, to get into your stretching, whatever it be, as you go along. So when with the campouts and that, I think the hardest thing was just being organised, like knowing where I was going to be and just planning ahead for the week.
Yeah.
And then mostly, there's the different places you can do exercises if you want, just getting up a bit early, or just going up to the shearing shed, or, you start becoming very mindful of how much noise you might be making with your weights and stuff. But it's, you can sort of adapt really easy once you get into it.
Yeah, good. So like you say, I think it's, again, it's one of the sort of questions we often get is like, how does it work if we need to go, there's always a way. I think the key thing is just being organised. You mentioned it then, being organised, I think is really key. Yeah. And what would you sort of, obviously your record day itself, just share, because obviously, myself and a few others weren't there, but I've been lucky enough to hear from you, but just share, like, perhaps sort of run by run, how you were feeling and what was going on, because that's what obviously on the video not everyone can see. So I mean, I know a little bit, so if you don't mind sharing with us, like, kind of just talk us through the day, really.
Well, so I got a fair bit of sleep the night before, or considering a fair bit of sleep. I think I got 5.5 hours or something the night before. So I did wake up feeling pretty good. Yeah, so like I was a bit stressed, or not stressed, but I was concerned that whether I'd lay there awake, nervous.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was really good that I got a fair bit of sleep, and then just waking up, obviously being very excited. I was sort of very much feeding off everyone else's enthusiasm and excitement. Everyone was pretty elated. I had a fairly good warm-up session before we started, and I was very lucky that I had my older sister doing all my meal prep for the day, so I was hitting all the nutrition that I needed for the day. And she's someone that takes it very seriously, puts a lot of effort into making sure it was all there and prepared exactly how we'd spoke about. So I was able to eat a fairly good breakfast and get down everything that we needed beforehand. And then when it came into actually starting, I suppose the hardest thing for me was I couldn't look out at the crowd. Probably, I sort of, like, as much mental preparation I'd done, thinking, oh yeah, you're going to be in front of everyone and it's going to be videoed, and you've put in the hard work and there's nothing you can change. You've done, for the whole last year, you've built all this up, and what happens, you're on. I just couldn't look at the crowd until we finished, because I just thought I would have got too nervous. So walking along to the board, really just focused on my team in the pens. I was really lucky to have some really good people there and supporting me and sharing their knowledge. So, and they were all in pretty good, happy mood, cheering me on and smiling. And so that was really good. So I just focused on them. First run, I suppose, very much just what's running through your head, like trying to settle in, was probably my hardest part through the whole day. Was, I suppose, just because even though everything's taken care of for you in the way of hydration, you've got someone helping you and someone taking care of the time, and they're telling you when to cut a change and helping you out with sheep to people. Like, you get so much assistance, and to take away those decisions making in the moment, I suppose it's still trying to process all that is different to what you're used to. So you still have a lot of that mental load going through and then also the mental load of the shearing, like where you're putting your blows and the gear and everything. So first run went pretty fast, and then morning smoko, I don't know, I felt pretty good. Probably the worst thing was like with our hydration was just felt like it was going to slosh back up, because like trying to stay hydrated, and when you're bending over, it feels like it's going to come back out again. So I got a fairly good smoko in, and then by lunchtime, second run was probably the hardest, just because I had a comb that probably didn't quite work with the sheep, and that was a bit frustrating. It was sort of getting the first comb we had on, whether it was me or the comb, it was just a bit frustrating, and it didn't run quite how I wanted it to. But that was okay, because the second comb went pretty good, and I sort of got back into a bit more flow. Lunchtime, because it all goes so quick and so slow at the same time, like lunchtime was really good. Just trying to settle down and recover. Like I was showering within a couple of minutes of stopping each run, just to help with recovery and everything. And then I had a massage therapist with me for the day and everything, so that was really good. But lunchtime I felt really good. Like it didn't feel so much that I wasn't feeling exhausted or tired, or I didn't feel like I was knackered. And not to take away anything from the day and what I was putting in, it was just that I think that was just the payoff of the training, that I didn't feel like my body had really exhausted by that point, so which is good. So it went fairly fast, and then third run and fourth run sort of just flew through. Nice. Probably the hardest thing was just the mental side of everything.
Yeah, interesting. So with that in mind, is there anything kind of like, I appreciate you've got your own very unique set of circumstances that bring you to this point, and you do your record, etc. So there's things that you're going to be really good at that someone else may not be, and vice versa. So what would be like, if anyone's thinking about doing a record, have you got any kind of little tips that and not just a record, but maybe like trying to progress themselves in the shed? Maybe they're trying to do a tally at some point by themselves, or perhaps they're just trying to get better day in, day out, which obviously this is kind of what this whole group's about, is trying to help people improve. So like any little bits of advice you could give them, Jeanine, to sort of take their performance to the next level?
Well, for starters, I'd just say just have a go. Like a lot of the time in life you think, oh, that's something I'd like to do, or one day that might be it, but you never really know when that day's coming. So there's a point that you may as well just start now. Like you shouldn't necessarily put it off, and there's all those little steps that sort of carried on to making it a bigger habit or a bigger step, and you're that much closer to your goal than if you hadn't started at all. That's what I'd probably sort of start with. So if you're interested in having a record or a tally or whatever it be, start doing those little things that it's going to increase your chances of getting towards that goal. There's no point saying, oh, just one day I might do that.
Day one or one day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just those little habits now. It might be just making sure you're drinking better, or it might be just, I don't know, whatever it be, like with your gear, it might be just buffing them more often, or whatever those little things you can pick up on yourself, thinking, oh, I should be doing that better, or not should be, or that would help me in the long run. Just sort of work on those bits to start with. And then on top of that, I think your organisation has to be up there. For me anyway, I suppose some people are just naturally organised. They probably don't live as chaotic as I can sometimes. But yeah, it's all just those little things that your future self will be like, oh yeah, I'm glad that I did that, rather than your future self will be like, damn, I wish I'd washed up and ground and I haven't.
I think it's often the way, isn't it, when we do things that are challenging, like I was training on Tuesday and I looked at my session plan that I had to do, and I was like, oh, I just really don't want to do this. But when I did it, I knew I would feel better after doing it. So there was a bit of an element of, like you say, like you'll be better for it. But like I think it's true that we could all just say, like, it doesn't matter how good or how long you've been doing something, sometimes your mind still plays with you, and you've got to, like you said, I think you've got to take those steps. I think that's like you've put that across beautifully. I think that's absolutely spot on.
No, that's just how I feel. Like even with like the training with you, so sometimes, especially on the weekend, you think, oh, like I would like to train. Like I got into the habit of training fairly early. So weekdays I was up at 4 o'clock to train, but on the weekends sometimes you're like, oh, I'll just have a sleep in, and then by 8 o'clock, if you just went for a walk, like that little bit of momentum, you just started the thing where just a gentle sort of walk or that little bit of motion in doing it, then you're like, oh, now I feel like warming up for my routine, and now I feel like, and you could get into that swing of the, you know, it was just that little bit of a gentle like momentum that got you into it, and then you'd really enjoy it. Like
the way I always think about that sort of thing is it's almost like one domino knocks over the next. So the longer you delay not doing the first thing that starts the day off. Now, you know, some people may say, I'll get out of bed and make my bed, and that knocks over the first domino, so I've done something good.
Right, exactly.
The next person, for the next person, it might be right. The next thing I need to do is make sure I have a healthy breakfast, knocks over the next domino.
Yep.
Yeah. And then suddenly we're into that situation where we're knocking over dominoes. We're not standing beside them. And I like to use that analogy myself. Sometimes I was like, right, first job, and then we just keep going. Love that. I think we've got a question from Marie. Marie Usher-Smith, Marie Preble, many of you will know as. So she asked, how much of the record did you organise yourself, and how much was left to the team? Because obviously she'll know a bit more about record prep than most. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about what how you feel you did that.
No, that's a great question, because like for me, never ever doing anything like this before, like it was completely out of my comfort zone. And a lot of my team too I don't think they've ever experienced anything like this before. I was really, really fortunate in having Mark. Like everyone would have seen him up there with me, like big tall fella in the red shirt. And he's someone like in his day life, like he's shearing and farming, and he's got lease country, and he's a pretty busy man. So he taught me to shear and has been one of my biggest ambassadors through this thing, just having a bit of confidence in me and what I can do and who I am. He did with him and Sharon, Constance, and my sister Lita, Maureen. They did most of the organisation, especially with the sponsorship and the logistics and everything like that. But for me, organising things, I don't know how you'd go doing it on your own, because Mark covered everything, like everything, the admin, you know, every little thing that came up, he was there to cover that. For me, actually, with the actual organisation, I sort of gratefully sort of kept apart so I could just focus on my shearing and my training and my nutrition and hydration and recovery. So yeah, like it's just the underground stuff that goes on behind the record. Like I sort of feel with this record, and I suppose my name's on the front of it, like it sort of feels hard to explain to people. The amount of people actually it takes to make it happen is phenomenal, and it feels a bit frustrating you can't show that, like accurately represent that, because you just don't see it. Like
it's quite humbling, isn't it? I mean, I've been part of, I've witnessed those sort of days too, and it's just incredible. I just love looking around. People are there for one common goal, to help that person who's on the stand do their job. And from a coaching perspective, it's just lovely to watch. Like it's just that athlete is doing the best they can, and their preparation and everything else. But no one's self-made, are they? Everyone needs a good team around them. So
so that's something I really struggled with taking this on. Is that I really, really struggled thinking that all these people, and they're really good people in my life that support me, but they've all got their own things going on. And it really took me a long time to sort of think about, like I felt like I was being a bit of a nuisance asking them to take on another job. Like it took a fair bit of consideration on me, and to drop that they wanted to help because they wanted to help. And it just felt like, I feel bad because they've got their own things and they're trying to do their own goals, and here I am saying, hey, can you help me with this I've got going on? But yeah, it was really, really fantastic just to see that support. And it was Yeah,
that's a reflection. That's a reflection on you, though. You know, I think if you've got a lot of people around you who are willing to support you when you need their help, that's a really nice reflection. Like you say, it's humbling. It's a bit embarrassing, if you want to call it that. You know, when you get offered so much help. But I think also as well, you know, from the outside, I think, you know, being a really nice person and being someone who's, you know, just got a nice energy about them. I think it's not a great surprise from where I'm stood that you had loads of people wanting to help you. So, but yeah, okay, cool. So we've got that there. So, you know, you've given most of it to your team, by the sounds of it, to answer Marie's question. The other thing she does ask as well is, did you shear any other breeds than Merinos, and does your pattern change much between them?
So yeah, like a lot of people ask about me doing the bottom side neck. So like for me, I'm mostly a Merino shearer. So like we shear crossbreds around here, so they're, I think like they'll call them half breds like in New Zealand. So that's more your Merino and your Border Leicester, or, you know, whatever, Merino and a Suffolk, or Merino and a, I don't know, Dorset, or whatever's going on. That's what we call crossbreds. So we will do them. But traditionally, I'm a Merino shearer for just the areas that I've worked in. And then with the bottom side neck, just to answer the people that had asked before, is that sort of the traditional sheep that I've sort of shorn, they've got a lot of body wrinkle, so a lot of neck wrinkle, and yeah, just traditionally, just the bottom side neck work. Like the sheep that I shore for the record, we had to go a fair way out of the area that I normally work in to find sheep that were record worthy. But yeah, I suppose with my pattern changing is, yeah, like it's probably only maybe 3 years ago that I learnt to topside, just because suddenly I had the sheep in front of me where it was, you could see the benefit of it. But with the sheep, yeah, Marie's question saying, does it change? It does slightly, but mostly I suppose I stick to the pattern, and it is more of the Australian, old school Australian pattern than you typically see with some of your meat breeds, or, you know, traditionally you see more people shearing with now. But yeah, for me personally, just the sheep that I've had presented to me, I've never really needed to change my pattern too much, other than the top side, bottom side.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so she also congratulated you on an epic day as well, to quote unquote. That was that. So there's one more, and I'm not sure quite what this question's about, but Nikki Lyons has asked, can you ask Jeanine how many houseplants she's bought to celebrate becoming a record holder? I hear many didn't survive during training, so you might need to enlighten the rest of us on that.
I'm not sure if I want to answer that question, but I think it's sad how many I've collected. Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, okay.
Quite a few. Yeah, yeah, I've got a few extra ones. I'm even venturing back out to outside gardening now that I've got a bit more extra time, so that's really good.
Okay.
Thanks, Nikki.
Okay. Cool. No, that's great. So I appreciate I've taken up quite a bit of your time. So is there anything else that we sort of haven't covered that you'd like to sort of discuss, Jeanine? Like, is there anything else any questions I haven't really asked or got a little more of an insight into about the day?
I feel like we've sort of covered everything. There's probably not too much that sort of comes to mind. It's just, yeah, like what we spoke about is just, if you want to go do it, have a crack at it, and yeah, your organisation and just those little steps, really.
Yeah. I think there's a few things there you mentioned which were absolutely on point. I really liked, you know, the bit about the sort of steps, you know, getting going and the first thing you can do to improve what you're doing, because I think a lot of us get caught up in the big picture too much when actually right in front of us is the obvious answer, the thing that we can do right now. Like, what one thing can you do right now that's going to move you forwards? And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and it's normally not as big as your mind makes out. Like, we have a bad habit, I feel, as humans. Like, we sort of exaggerate things in our minds, like, oh, it's going to be an effort and I have to get this out. But the effort of actually thinking about it and doing it, generally you'd have it half done. Like, we sort of get into that. Or this is probably me talking about more my experience, is that we're very good at talking ourselves out of it. But, you know, and and you know, it's individual to everyone, I suppose too. I suppose.
Yeah, but no, I'm here. What you're saying, I'm hearing and I'm seeing a lot. You know, in the field that I operate in, and just as well personally, it's like, you know, I can be really good at talking myself out of doing something that actually isn't as big a deal as it, you know, as it is. So yeah, no, I can definitely resonate with that. Brilliant, Jeanine, brilliant. I really appreciate your time, and
no worries.
yeah, obviously, it's been a pleasure working on. I know we're carrying on working together anyway, but it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. You know, I want to congratulate you on, you know, not only setting a record, but, you know, and standing up there and doing it, but also as well your application to the process, the questions you asked, you know, your communication levels were great. And you know, I think if you ever decided to do something like that again, you know, I definitely want to be part of your team anyway, because it was a pleasure, absolute pleasure helping you. So, so yeah,
I'll be hassling you quick.
Hey,
I'll be hassling you real quick, Matt. I've got enough idea.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, no, that's all good. So listen, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I just want to say thank you again.
No, thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you, Matt.
Bye bye.